I think we can all say Yoshida is best boy. Yoshida is a Chad. Yoshida is a legend. That last scene of today's episode of Higehiro, that was a masterpiece. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. And I enjoyed this episode mostly because of that last scene with the conversation between Sayu and our boy Yoshida. Like, listen, we're going to talk about this episode, but this was a great episode. Now, I'll definitely talk about the start of the episode, which was pretty dark, disturbing. We all know. And, you know, we go from that scene to essentially this was a Sayu-focused episode, mostly pertaining to how Sayu is thinking how people or how she envisions that Yoshida will treat her in the future, or what she thinks that he'll do to her in the future. As well, at the same time, she still questions the fact, why does he not want to do that stuff with me? Why does he not want to sleep with me? Why does he not want to have sex with me, essentially, if I'm going to say it, and stuff like that. And, you know, I can appreciate the fact of what this writer of this series did. Because in some series, I'm not saying most, but in some to most series, if you got a scene like you had in the last bit of the episode where the girl undresses in front of the main male character, and this can be any genre, in anime, in like, you know, slice of life, regular TV type of stuff, you know, I guess drama / reality television, whatever. In that case, you would have it to where, okay, yeah, you have this young girl just stripped down to her bras and her panties and essentially come up on the main male character and forcibly try to do it with him. And even though the male character is trying to deny it, eventually the male character just, you know, gives in and, you know, they just do it. Here, the writer takes a different approach here. And again, further makes Yoshida known to the point, and I'll talk more about this in the scene, that look, he was telling her, Yoshida was telling Sayu, look, I don't like you like that. You know, I don't have feelings for you. I don't love you like that. I just see you as a teenage girl who needs some assistance, who needs to understand how to get her life back together. And I want to be a person to help you. And, you know, you can stay here as long as you can until you have the courage to go back home and, you know, actually start to have respect for yourself. You know, see yourself as somebody studious. I guess somebody that carries himself with some pride and some decency, where you don't have to lower yourself down to what we, I guess you could say, saw in the first scene of this episode. And again, like I said, I'll get to what we talked, what I just or expand a little bit more on that scene, as well as I also did like the Mishima and Sayu talk in this episode. Very nice development for Sayu here. But let's get to this episode. It's kind of going to be more of an analysis than more review, but I'll talk about some things that we saw in this episode that will continue the story. And okay, so we've been past the first 2 episodes. We kind of get a semblance of Sayu's past, that it's definitely going to be dark. It's definitely going to be probably not for the faint of heart good, and it's going to probably be something that might rustle some people's feathers when you watch this episode, when you watch the series. Especially if we get more backstory on Sayu. And I knew that we're going to get something dark. Her backstory is going to be something dark. And, you know, the first episode starts off, or this episode starts off directly into a very graphic, disturbing, disgusting, horrible, any way you want to interpret this scene in your opinion, you know, scene where we see one of the men that Sayu went from house to house to house to house. I believe it was like 6 men she's been over other people. six men's house she's been over, but we see one of those men doing it with her, having sex with her, essentially. And it was a very graphic, again, disturbing scene, because the way they put this scene in this episode, they put it at the start, where you think, oh, you're gonna get probably a happy start, focusing on maybe Yoshida in waking up from, his, after going to sleep for the night and then waking up to get ready for work and stuff like that, and having a funny conversation with Sayu. You would think we would get that, especially what happened last episode with how it started off. But in this, it starts off in probably one of the darkest ways to start off this show, the series we've seen so far. And again, like I said, we see this man who looks like he's a middle-aged man, probably older / younger than Yoshida, doing it with Sayu. And we see it. I'm not going to talk what we see in this, but you can clearly see that they're showing it, and they're not afraid to show it. Like I said, they show them in bed, and we know what he's doing to her. I'm not going to comment on this, but the one thing we see in the scene when they focus on Sayu's face is we just see the emotionless, dead look in her eyes, and we just see that clearly she just did this to do this and get it out the way, and she clearly isn't having any fun. She clearly doesn't want to do this, but she just willingly just gives her body up like that. And that's what made this scene very dark and disturbing as you're seeing this, where her eyes are dead and you're just looking at this guy doing it with her, and you're like, this guy can't see the look in his eyes like a responsible adult should care. And anyways, if he's a responsible adult, he wouldn't even be doing this to begin with. But okay, he ends up doing it with her. Shouldn't you have the smartness to look into her eyes and be like, she doesn't like this and she doesn't want to do this? And you just have the person saying like, do you like it? Sayu, or he called her Miyuki, and stuff like that. And it was a very disturbing scene. And I looked on the comment section on Verve, because I watched this on Verve. And, this is definitely a very touchy-feel thing. I saw a lot of people in the comment section say they didn't see this coming. It's disgusting, horrible, degradable. I feel like, and listen, my thing on this scene is, if you did not like the scene, this was an automatic turnoff, which it should be for everyone. Like, you should not condone this at all and stuff like that. But if it's a turnoff and you feel like you just want to drop the show because you just don't want to get more into the backstory because you feel like you're going to see more things like this, I won't fault you if you drop it. I'm not going to blame you. I'm not going to say, well, it's just one scene. I understand why people would be turned off, why they would drop it, and why they would probably discontinue watching the series. But I will say, to counter that point, it is a thing, and one person did say, I saw in the comments, like, yes, is it a horrible scene to see? But this is a thing where we're going to get more of her character, her backstory, for her development as a person going forward, so she doesn't have to resort to going back to that old Sayu where she just asks a man, hey, let me live in here and I'll give you my body and you can do whatever you want with me free of charge, and stuff like that. Now, another thing I did see before I talk more about the episode, or what I talk mostly next up, which is the Mishima Sayu scene, is the fact that I saw some people in the comment section saying that, what if the guy who was doing it with Sayu at the start of the episode, what if that guy was the co-worker? Because we see later in this episode, a co-worker shows up to talk to Yoshida saying, oh, you're not going on the business trip or whatever. And they have a very identical a very identical hairstyle and / very identical colored hair. The character who was doing it in the first part of this episode had brown hair, just like this character. And some people are saying, what if the co-worker was the guy that did with Sayu? And if that is revealed to be true, that gets things even darker than I thought we would go. And especially, it's gonna be very testy if it comes out to be true, because Yoshida might beat that guy's butt, and we could go into a whole other issue there. So it's just like the Goto thing, which honestly, more and more I see of this, the more and more confirming the fact to myself that she's don't have a boyfriend. She's not seeing anybody. She was just afraid to go out with Yoshida, because Yoshida kind of sprung this question upon her, because we see in this episode, Yoshida goes with Mishima to this movie and he bumps into Goto again, and Goto kind of looks a little and stuff like that. So definitely that storyline is something big. But now maybe realizing that maybe it's the co-worker that did it with Sayu, this is gonna get really dark. I just know it is, if that comes out to be true. But going on from that scene, so we can talk about better things. The thing about Sayu this episode, because it was kind of a Sayu focused episode, is she wakes up from this, like, I guess nightmare / dream, whatever. And she wonders why Yoshida doesn't want to do that to her. Like, why doesn't he want to sleep with me? Why doesn't he want to do things to my body? And stuff like that. And she's wondering through this throughout the entire episode and stuff like that. And we get to a point in the episode where she starts to question herself. She's like, what if he kicks me out, if he gets a girlfriend? Like, is he gonna just, if he gets a girlfriend, is he just gonna kick me to the curb and just say, get out of my house and stuff like that? And that's the thing on her mind. And to the point, she runs away from home, and after Mishima and Yoshida go see a movie, you get the kind of classic scene where you have the main female character walk up on the male character of the story, and you see the main female character see the male main character, with another girl, and taking the scene way out of context, which is what Sayu kind of does, because she sees that Mishima hugs Yoshida, and the whole thing with Mishima is, we know she likes Yoshida, and essentially she sees Yoshida as somebody special in her life that is, I guess you can say, that fate by chance individual that will eventually, I guess, fall in love and settle down with them and stuff like that. Now, Yoshida looks like he's not about that, and he doesn't want no, full out relationship with Mishima, because we know he likes Goto, and stuff like that. But we see Sayu do this. She runs away. He goes back home, and she left her phone and everything. Eventually, you have Yoshida running away, or not running away, running to go find her. And that's when we get cut back to Sayu. She's in the park. She runs across Mishima, and we're like, oh boy, this is gonna get some spicy. Okay, and then, essentially, we kind of have Mishima have a heart-to-heart conversation with Sayu, saying like, Sayu says that she's a runaway to her, and we find out that Mishima, she used to be a runaway herself, and she did that from time to time and stuff like that. And essentially, the generic of this conversation here was Mishima was kind of, as you have Sayu essentially saying like, I'm kind of just afraid of the fact that this person I'm staying at, this person's whose house I'm staying at, what if he just will kick me to the curb after something in his life important happens and stuff like that. I'm afraid that he's going to kick me out and I'll have nowhere else to go and stuff like that. And, we also, Mishima asked a question like, what, did you get in a fight with her parents? And from what Sayu says, she says, no, I didn't get into a fight with my parents, but I found it as a way that, it seems like her parents weren't showing her like kindness, because she brings up a fact like, it's interesting. I wonder how, unconditional kindness is, essentially saying like and her thing, and Sayu's fear is, yes, Yoshida's being very kind to me. He's being very open. He's being very caring and stuff like that. But my thing is, I find it uniquely, what if that kindness of him goes away and then he's just like done, you know? And it seems like that's what must have happened with her parents, I'm guessing. You know, her parents must have not shown her the kindness she thought she was going to get, like a kindness where, you know, it's just something out of essentially love and care and things like that. And essentially Mishima's like, yes, I understand, you can have that fear. That fear is warranted and it's understandable. But the one thing you have to do is, you know, yes, is this fear gonna hold you in your tracks? It's gonna freeze you. It's gonna make you think like, what if this person isn't kind to me? Or if they're just using me in a way? But Mishima kind of tells and reassures Sayu, essentially saying, listen, you know, you're gonna have to overcome that fear eventually. And I think this person, whoever it is, has probably the best intentions, is showing you the kindness that you are gonna have. That's when we see Yoshida show up, and it kind of gets things a little awkward and stuff like that. So now Mishima kind of knows the secret. She's actually leaves. Mishima's like, you owe me an explanation, Yoshida, and stuff like that. So we cut back to the house, and we see Sayu just in her bras and panties, just there, standing to Yoshida, essentially giving the implications to do it with her. And she starts pressing him, she hugs on him and everything. She's grabbing his, you know what, trying to rub it and everything to get it hard. And essentially we see, you know, obviously, you know, Yoshida, he's not turned on by this at all. And things like that. And you have Sayu asking like, but I'm a girl, I'm a pretty, you know, girl, I have big boobs for a teenager my age, and yada yada. Well, are you not turned on and stuff like that? And you had Yoshida replying like, look, I'm not into you like that. I'm not. You know, I don't want to do this. I don't want to sleep with you. You know, and essentially goes through a list of factors, essentially saying like, look, you're again telling her to her face, like, look, you're a very, very attractive, pretty girl. You're not my type. I don't love you. And I like the point how he mentioned in the scene, he tells her like, you said if it wouldn't make me upset. This is making me clearly upset. Because I don't want to do this with you. And I'm not gonna force you to do this with me. And stuff like that. And I like the whole scene how he eventually, you know, hugs her to kind of reassure her. And at first she's taking it like as a way as, you know, it's a way of him hurting her, but he's like, look, I'm not hurting you. I'm not going to do this with you. So please get your clothes back on and we can have one last talk about this. And eventually she does. And then he essentially again says, look, you know, I don't see you like that. And I want you to have dignity. I want you to have respect. I want you to have pride for yourself where you don't have to do things like that. And I like the one comment he says in the end. He's like, look, I don't care how long it is. You know, you're more than welcome to stay here until you are ready to go back home. And, you know, throughout the speech, how he's essentially telling like, I want you to have this, this, and this, you know. It's making her emotional and stuff like that. And it was a very touching scene. You get another hug between the two characters. And I really am liking this father-daughter, big brother / little sister type of thing going on here. It's morally people have said it's morally of a father to daughter comparison. I see it in both those aspects, brother / sister, brother, father to daughter type of thing. And it was a really good freaking episode. And I also did like the fact how, you know, and this is the thing that makes her cry, Sayu cry. And I like the fact that, and I forgot to mention it too. Yoshida's like, look, ever since you came to live with me, you know, I feel 10 times better. I don't feel lonely. I feel like I'm going to go home to a person, have some laughs, have some fun times, because before you came, I was starting to see myself as a lonely person, a person that just kind of hangs out by, you know, himself, just comes home, is lonely, you know. And now that you're here, you're somebody I look forward to come home to, have some talk to, have some fun with, and enjoy life with. And, he thanks her for that. And I like the fact that he did thank her for the fact, like, he's like, thank you for coming and stuff like that. And thank you for staying. And it was a very emotional episode. I very much liked this episode. And I feel like this is the episode where it's going to determine, are you going to drop this series or are you going to keep going with this series? And I feel like this episode definitely reassured me that I'm definitely going to continue watching this series. We clearly know that Yoshida's character is, he's not going to do something wrong. He's not going to have a whole character change in his life where he's going to be now thirsty for Sayu and he's going to pin her on the bed and start doing that stuff. We know his character. We know he's not like that. We know he wants to only be with women of his age, around his age and stuff like that. He doesn't want to do the whole thing with being, stuff like that. Now, again, like I said, just because he doesn't want to do that stuff now and potentially hook up with Sayu now, it never means he could do it down the road later. Now, if they're gonna go that route, I say do it where she's older, where she's, I guess you can say, of a legal age, where she's considered an adult to our boy Yoshida and stuff like that. And they definitely could go that route. The author definitely could go that route. I don't know if this anime is going to get more seasons or if it's going to be this one season. And if you want to get more of this story, you're going to have to go read the manga or whatever adaptation. This is coming from a light novel or a manga. I think it comes from a manga. But this was a very good episode. In terms of the content we got here, from the start of this episode, how disturbing it was, to where we ended this episode off, you just leave with a smiling face knowing that, no, this guy Yoshida, he's not a dick. He's not a scumbag. He's an actually good guy. He's a respectful man. And the crazy thing is, as much as we can say, as men as we can say, yeah, there's not a lot of trustworthy females out there. But women can say the same thing about males as well. That there are not a lot of trustworthy men. And I'll be honest, there is not. There are scumbag of people out there in this world. There are scumbag of men out there in this world. Because we know there are people out there, men out there, that will take advantage of young girls, like similarly in the age, like Sayu, that will do disgusting, horrible acts, and sometimes not even get caught for their actions for what they're doing. And they abuse these young individual girls like that. Now, eventually they do get caught and stuff like that, but there are people out there, like, again, in today's society, if a girl asks them to do it, guess what? Most men do not care about the repercussions for their actions, and they'll be like, all right, fine, this is the time I can have sex with a girl. And they end up doing it. And that's just real life. Some guys are like that, where they don't care about the repercussions for the actions they make. But you have some guys like Yoshida who are respectful, who are honorable, and be like, no, I'm not going to do this with you. I know what will happen if I do this to you. I will get in massive trouble if I do this, and stuff like that. And I'm not going to do this. You can stay here, but until you get your life together, I'm not going to forcibly kick you out. And I really do like this. It seems like next week, Yoshida's probably going to tell her, like, hey, maybe you should try to think about getting a part-time job to support yourself. It seems like that's going to do. Also, I feel like the more we see more of this whole thing dynamic going on, I feel like Sayu is going to see some of Yoshida's coworkers. She's already met Mishima. Who knows? Maybe one day she'll come across Goto and maybe some other characters. Again, we also gotta wonder, is that coworker the dude who did it with her in the first part of this episode? And stuff like that. It's gonna be very interesting because if they have a meet, he's gonna be like, Sayu? And that is gonna be a whole can of worms. But yeah, I very much enjoyed this episode. very dark start, but then a very nice, reassuring ending to this episode, and it's got me hooked on this show. From what I can't wait to see of this slice of life dynamic between the relationship of Yoshida and Sayu. And again, I think we can all say our boy Yoshida is a Chad, a legend. He is a god tier character, because most characters don't do that. When we don't see that particularly happen in these slice of lives, sometimes it ends up going the whole sex direction. But again, I like that Yoshida has respect and dignity for himself. But other than that, I'm gonna get out of here. So if you guys like the episode, all right, like the review, leave a like. Put in the comment section your thoughts on this episode. Anything you want to talk about, regardless. Whether you enjoy this episode, are you gonna drop this series after what you saw in the first half of this episode and stuff like that? Are you gonna stay on? Yada yada yada. Again, hit the subscribe button if you want to get more Higehiro content, as well as any other anime I upload to the channel in terms of reviews. And please hit that subscribe button. I'm not begging for subscribers, but I have 93 subscribers. I'm only a few amount of numbers away. I believe 9 subscribers away from 100 subscribers, which in my case is a huge milestone for me. So please, I'm so close. But again, I'm not going to beg for subscribers, but if you want to hit that subscribe button, go right ahead. And if you do subscribe, hit that bell icon to make sure you get anything up to date of whatever I upload to the channel. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night or whenever you're checking out this video. Until then, guys, hopefully you guys are staying safe out there, and I'll see you guys on the next episode review or the next video. Till then, guys, peace.